the reason why this gets to be a big deal in Old Testament scholarship is that if you start digging into these things, often the similarities of names becomes a sticking point in arguing for historicity of narratives, right? In other words, and I get kind of dissatisfied both with conservatives and liberals in the right, conservative scholars and liberal scholars in this area, and that what liberal scholars will look at similarities of names like this, and they draw the conclusion that these names must refer to the same people, and then say, right, they like a liberal scholar would come to the conclusion, well, Esther must not be historically accurate because look at what they're saying, right? They're saying like Haman is a descendant of Agag. How can that possibly be true? And so they're like, oh, well, this story must not be historically reliable. It's just a made up story. And I'm like, well, no, you don't know that, right? And then and the conservative scholars on the other side will do the same thing, right? They would say, oh, like what are the theological lessons about all of this about like Haman being a descendant of Agag, the Amalekite? And I'm like, no, you don't know that. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like in both cases, right? Either in a you know either in wanting to defend inspiration of the Old Testament or historical reliability of the Old Testament, or in trying to attack the historical reliability of the Old Testament. In both cases, you end up doing slipshod things with the data that's actually there, right? You end up jumping to conclusions that you don't know. In fact, what I would say is that it's more likely, right? Because like what you do find evidence for all over the place in the Bible is many, many people having the same name, right? Mary, James, right? It's like names get recycled all the time. And by the way, that happens in our society today too, still, right? Um, anyway, so that's why I get as a scholar, I get kind of juiced about that because it's like, right, it's like this is what happens. Like once you get a PhD, it's like you start thinking you know more than you actually know, and you get sloppy with the text that's actually there. Um, and we shouldn't do that, right? From either perspective, right? If you want to, if you believe that the Old Testament is historically accurate, that's a perfectly fine belief to have, but don't mess with the data, right? Like don't draw false conclusions from the data. And it's the same thing, right? If you choose not to believe in the historical reliability of the Old Testament, right? Like that's a fine position for you to take. But again, don't do sloppy stuff with the data.